Armistice Day, November 11th, he had marked his 59th birthday. He was the most controversial American general of World War II, George S. Patton, known to some of his more than 250,000 men in the Third Army as Old Blood and Guts. A quarter of a century before, he'd spent his 33rd birthday in France, at the very end of the war to end all wars, as the Great War had been described. He had earned the Distinguished Service Cross and a Purple Heart while leading the U.S. 1st Provisional Tank Brigade as a lieutenant colonel. "Peace looks possible," he had written to his wife Beatrice toward the end of hostilities, "but I rather hope not, for I would like to have a few more fights. They are awfully thrilling, like steeplechasing, only more so." Patton had courted Beatrice throughout his time at the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, New York, where he'd had to repeat a year after failing in mathematics. Their marriage in 1910 had drawn high society from across her native Massachusetts and beyond. She would remain utterly devoted to her husband, despite rumors of him having an affair with the daughter of Beatrice's half-sister, let alone the considerable challenges of being married to such a mercurial, hard-driving man. Now George S. Patton, born into privilege and wealth, a superb fencer, the designer of his very own saber, a 1912 Olympic athlete, and a believer in reincarnation, was a 3-star general with an entire army and several hundred tanks at his disposal. And he was in a grim mood indeed that November 25, 1944, as he was driven in his jeep past dead Germans toward the city of Metz. He wanted his troops to see him. He got out where it is unhealthy oftener than any other general, as he put it, but not too frequently lest he become a nuisance. Patton knew it was important to be seen heading toward the sound of the guns. George S. Patton had never been considered a shirker from any danger, ever since he'd first seen action, chasing after the revolutionary Pancho Villa in Mexico in 1916. He'd always been up for the fight. The current Lorraine campaign had been his least successful, bringing heartache and frustration. The Germans themselves would later criticize his tactics, arguing that attacking forts in Lorraine and the city of Metz had been too costly. He should have bypassed them and headed straight for Luxembourg. He was, after all, a master of mobile armored warfare. But the terrain and weather had not permitted it. Above all, Patton cursed the weather. It explained all of his problems. He was convinced of it. That was why he was stuck in the mud. "If it only won't rain, we will go places." That was what he'd written to his dear wife, Beatrice. "If it only won't rain, we will go places." Allied Supreme Commander Dwight Eisenhower had expected Patton to carry the ball all the way and push through Lorraine to Germany. Patton had hoped to declare victory by his birthday, but that had not happened. There had been a desultory party, and his staff had presented him with field-expedient armored diesels, cocktails usually containing bourbon or rye, but now spiked with any liquor that could be found. And still the rain poured down. Trench foot was rampant. In one division, Patton recalled, there were an extraordinary 3,000 cases. It could hardly be avoided when men had to wade across flooded fields up to their waists in muddy water. It didn't matter how much a soldier dubbed his boots or how many pairs of dry socks he hoarded. Everything that dismal November got wet. Lieutenant Colonel Alban F. Erzik, one of Patton's most able tank officers, recalled how Patton's 4th Armored Division, to which Erzik belonged, had finally gotten bogged down after thundering across France. "We had traveled 328 miles in 12 days. We were 60 miles from the German border and another 80 miles to the Rhine River. We'd already gone 328 in 12 days. According to Erzik, Patton had declared, "We'll be at the Rhine in 10 days. 27-year-old Erzik, commander of the 8th Tank Battalion, was a slim and handsome graduate.